والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We'll continue inshallah ta'ala from Mukhtasar Minhaj al-Qasidin, the book about purification of the soul and how to see the reality of the acts of worship, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not just physically, and how to do that also with our hearts. The reality of the acts of worship as the Prophet ﷺ did, as the Sahaba radiallahu anhum did, and this is the real benefit that a person would get from his ibadah. Many would do the physical acts of worship on time, inshallah, and they do it every day, but it is not done with their hearts in the right way. That's what we need to have, this khushu' and the humbleness and the devotion. And as we said before, it's two ways. One way is that the person would see that the khushu' or the good matters of worship with one's heart and physically to be sound. This is a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a result of being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when a person's life is a life of righteousness and he has this level of khushu' in his heart in all of his affairs, and he's always, his heart is attached to the hereafter, he knows the purpose of his life, and he follows the way of the Prophet ﷺ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides the believers to get even more and more rewards, and for them to have their acts of worship is the jewel of their eyes. And on the other side, or the other way, is that focusing in the salah and the matters of worship will increase the iman and will make the person righteous. So it's efforts on basically all the life of the Muslim. The effort to be done in the acts of worship when it's done to be done in the right way, and the rest of one's life to make sure that he is not deprived from matters of worship because of his own sins and forgetfulness and so on. We talked about the salah and others, and last time we were talking about the Quran and the recitation of the Quran and so on. And then after that he talks about the adhkar, the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the dua. He says, اعلم أنه ليس بعد تلاوة القرآن عبادة تؤدى باللسان أفضل من ذكر الله سبحانه وتعالى. Know that there is nothing after the recitation of the Quran as a ibadah that is done by the tongue better than the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the ibadah, as we said, there are different types. There is the ibadah, physical ibadah done by one's body, the ibadah done with one's wealth, and the tongue also. Many acts of worship to be done by the tongue. The best of all of them is to recite the Quran, the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After the recitation of the Quran comes the level of the dhikr, or the remembrance of Allah. And the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is by the tongue and also by the heart. And this is the highest level, when the dhikr is done by the heart and the tongue. And if a person's heart is not pure enough, or is not able to focus with his heart enough, he should continue to say with his tongue, because the more he makes dhikr with his tongue, the more that the heart will be purified, so that he can reach this level where the dhikr is done by the heart and the tongue. So the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to make dua. وَرَفْعِ الْحَوَائِجِ بِالْأَدْعِيَةِ الْخَالِصَةِ إِلَيْهِ تَعَالَى. رَفْعِ الْحَوَائِجِ. When you send your needs, right? You call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of your needs, for all of one's affairs. And these really are the real successful ones in this life, those who constantly ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything. Even as one of the early generations of Islam, he said, even for the salt that you put on your food, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that, because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala withhold it, he will not be ever able to get it, because he's the owner of all things. And because of that, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all things. We should not belittle what we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for, thinking that this is, no, I should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what is more important. You ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything, for matters of this life, matters of the hereafter, and we get to know the etiquettes of that also, inshallah ta'ala. We mentioned some of the verses of the Quran that shows the importance and the virtues of dhikr. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. Such a great reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, remember me, I will remember you. And there's nothing better than this. Then the person will be remembered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning mentioned his name, the name of that individual that remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be mentioned in the best gathering, the gathering of the angels. And the implications of that is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Jannah and so on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He described the believers, He said, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ. Those who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala standing, sitting and on their sides. And there's no other position other than these positions. So that means in any position, this is an act of worship that you don't have to be in a masjid to do. You don't have to be in a certain physical position at all levels, standing, sitting, laying down. This is one of the characteristics of the believers, and whoever wants to enter Jannah, right, he should have to have sincerity that he wants to fulfill all the characteristics of the believers. Not to just have some of them. We have to make sure that we have all of them and seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You find it difficult, you find it that you cannot get all of these attributes or these characteristics, this is where the dua comes in place. And if a person sincerely asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. And the same thing is said even to those who are young and they feel all kinds of temptations. But instead of ordering them to do many things or to deprive themselves from many things, of course this has to be done, but to ask them sincerely, to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. To ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect them from sins, to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide them to do what is right. And many people, this is believe it or not, many people they won't make such a dua. Why? Because they think if the dua or the ibadah is made beloved to them and the sins is made something that they would hate, they think that they will be deprived from some joy in this life. So they want to continue into committing sins. And how evil the person can reach that level. Right? Asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us hate sins, make us love matters of worship and matters of the deen. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changes one's heart, this is the joy of this life. Right? So the person should never, sit back when it comes to this. He should always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone afflicted with any sin, shahawat, desires, looking, committing sins, this is the most effective tool whatsoever, is to make sincere dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sincere dua that person is ruined unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts his dua, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make him love the matters of Iman and stay away from sins. But many people, shaitan would divert them away from such a dua. And usually if a person makes that dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful, He will guide him to be away from what is evil. So the believers, they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all of their states. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says also the characteristics of the believing men and women, وَالذَّاكِرِينَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا وَالذَّاكِرَةِ. Those who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, men and women, a lot. And always the dhikr is mentioned in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ as kathiran, so many. Not just once in a while. Actually the hypocrites, the munafiqeen, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the hypocrites, He said, وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. That they only remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala but little. So they remember Allah. The munafiqeen, the hypocrites, they make remembrance of Allah but only قَلِيلًا, for a little time. So that means for a person to be among the believers, it is not about just the remembrance of Allah. No, it's kathiran. It's to make it a lot. And how can we reach this level? What is the limit? ما هو حد الكثير? What is the level of that a person, when he reaches, that means he's making the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kathiran? This is something that we need to know. And the Prophet ﷺ said, إن الله عز وجل يقول أنا مع عبدي ما ذكرني وتحركت به شفتاه. Which means, and this is an authentic hadith, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, hadith Qudsi, أنا مع عبدي ما ذكرني. I am with my slave wherever he remembers me. وتحركت بي شفتاه. And when my name, his lips moves with my name. That means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with him. What is with him here? معية النصر والتأييد, right? The with him, with the victory and the help and the support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the ma'iyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all of his creation, with whether it's believers or disbelievers, meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all watcher over them and so on. But for the believers, this is a special one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with them, to guide them, to give them victory, and so on. So when the person is in state of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with him, otherwise the shayateen will be with him. وفي أفراد مسلم عنه صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال: لا يقعد قوم يذكرون الله إلا حفتهم الملائكة وغشيتهم الرحمة ونزلت عليهم السكينة وذكرهم الله في من عنده. There is no group of people would sit remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يذكرون Allah, unless the angels would surround them and the mercy will descend upon them and the sakina comes down on them, the tranquility, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will mention them with those who are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the angels. So this is every time. لا يقعد قوم, meaning every time group of people would sit, make remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how to do that? According to the way of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. How the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, him and his companions would sit and make remembrance of Allah. Like this. Reading the Quran, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam would teach them the deen of Allah, ayat of the Quran, the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, for things for them to apply. And also in hadith kathir, there are many hadith in this, in the virtues of the dhikr. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, and this reported by Abu Dawood, and it's isnad hasan, sound hadith, ما جلس قوم مجلسا. There is no group of people would sit any majlis, in any gathering, فتفرقوا على غير ذكر الله عز وجل إلا تفرقوا عن مثل جيفة الحمار وكان ذلك المجلس عليهم حسرة يوم القيامة. Which means there's no group of people, they would sit in a majlis, in a gathering, and they disperse afterwards without the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, unless they have been dispersed away from jifat al-himar, on the like of the corpse of a donkey. How rotten it is. They were sitting like this. If they were sitting without the remembrance of Allah, as if they were gathered to sit right with a donkey that has been, what it's a corpse of a donkey, it's it's rotten and it's big, decomposing, and how rotten that is, nobody would sit next to this. This is what people do when they sit in gatherings where the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not mentioned. وَكَانَ ذَلِكَ الْمَجْلِسُ عَلَيْهِمْ حَسْرَةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, that this majlis will be hasra, meaning will be a source of regret for them in the Day of Judgment. Any majlis, any gathering, any sitting, that the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not mentioned. So even if it's a business transaction, yes. Even if it's a meeting at work, yes. Any type of gathering whatsoever. So in any place, a person has to at least mention the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, say Alhamdulillah. If people are not doing anything, he himself should make remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way or form, so that it's not a source of regret in the Day of Judgment. And it shows what is the level of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the life of a Muslim is that much, right? Always, in any majlis, he has to say the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't have to be that the whole majlis is about matters of deen and so on, but at least the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to be mentioned. Another hadith, also the salah on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as the next hadith, reported by Imam Ahmad and others. لا يجلس قوم مجلسا لا يذكرون الله عز وجل ولا يصلون على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إلا كان عليهم حسرة يوم القيامة. There is no people who would sit in a majlis, in a gathering. They don't remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they don't make salah on the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, unless it becomes hasra and regret for them in the Day of Judgment. So they also have to say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, right? Even if you're the only one doing it, but you have to have this in any majlis, in any gathering that a person is in. Otherwise, as you see, it's not just a virtuous act, it becomes a source of regret. And what is a better thing than this? A person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of the heavens and the earth. There is no breath we take unless it's by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create His creation and left them. Know that they are being maintained with every breath they take. The power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they witness it. So how can they not be then in remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when everything is supposed to remind them of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So this is with the dhikr. So then the action should be that the person has to be busy with the dhikr. And how to be among those who make remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a kathiran is the two types of adhkar. Either it's adhkar muwaddafa, as he will mention, of أذكار موظفة. That means أذكار to be said at certain times, certain places, certain situations. Certain times, the morning and the evening, for example, right? Certain places, when you enter the masjid, when you leave the masjid, when you enter the home, when you enter the market, when you get into your car, to get all of these adhkar. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy for us. You can have it right in your hand. So read it from whatever authentic book there is, but never miss these adhkar. Never miss it when you, every time you enter your car, every time you leave your home, right, and so on. And in any situation, before going to sleep, when coming, waking up from sleep, and so on. And the other type is to make remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in general at all times. With the different adhkar, general adhkar, and making salah on the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Then ad-du'a. Ad-du'a, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said in the hadith of Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, ليس شيء أكرم على الله عز وجل من الدعاء, which means there is nothing more honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better than the dua. That means you will be honored, that means you will be given. Nothing more virtuous than asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah, as the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said. This is the purpose of our life, is al-ibadah. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ad-du'a huwa al-ibad." The dua is the ibad. And the dua is two types. Dua al-mas'ala, when you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and dua al-thana, when you're praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ibad. Right? So your salah is dua. It has the two types. You praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people, their dua is only asking. No asking and praising. So the dua is the ibadah, and this is the most honored thing. وَأَشْرَفُ الْعِبَادَةِ الدُّعَاء. The most honored act of worship is the dua. And the other authentic hadith reported by Imam Ahmad and others, مَنْ لَا يَسْأَلِ اللَّهِ يَغْضَبُ عَلَيْهِ. Whoever do not ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah becomes angry with him. Right? Again, and it's not something that a person need to be convinced. The breath we take, it's by the will of Allah. It's by the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how can a person take it for granted like this? A person should always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وفي حديث آخر سألوا الله من فضله فإن الله يحب أن يسأل. Although some had said that this hadith is weak, but the meaning of it is correct because it's mentioned in the Quran, which means سألوا الله من فضله, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from His bounties, because indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves to be asked. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us in the Quran, سألوا الله من فضله, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from His bounty. And this ayah or this order came in the context of the men and women. وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضَكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبُوا وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبْنَ وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مِن فَضْلِهِ. A man thinking, oh, if I was a woman, for example, or the woman would say, if I was a man I would do this, or I can go out, or right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then addressing the believers, instead of doing that, اسأل الله من فضله, ask Allah from His bounties. And if you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from His bounties, you don't know what is better for you. If you ask and you leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you from His bounties. And that's why there is adab and etiquettes for dua that we need to learn, otherwise a person might ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and it brings the opposite and not what the person is seeking. Some of these adab, and يتحرى الأوقات الشريفة, that he would, يتحرى is when you're waiting and looking and concerned. When is the good times to make dua, right? So you're concerned, that means this is something that you give importance to. You wait for the good time, the virtuous times where the dua is likely to be accepted. Like كيوم عرفة من السنة, the day of Arafah, as far as the best day of the year in dua. Ramadan min al-shuhur, and as far as the months are concerned, the month of Ramadan. That's a month that a person waits for, so that he can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make dua and so on. وَالْجُمُعَةُ مِنَ الْأُسْبُوعِ, and the day of Jumu'ah, every week, there's an hour where the Prophet ﷺ pointed with his two fingers that it's small, that لَا يُوَافِقُهَا عَبْدُ الْمُسْلِمْ قَائِمٌ يُصَلِّي إِلَّا اسْتَجَابَ اللَّهُ لَهُ. There's no Muslim would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at this time unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept his dua. It's worth it to wait for it every Jumu'ah to make sure that we don't miss it. This short period of time, especially if it's before Maghrib, but with the acts of worship done throughout the day of Jumu'ah, right, then it's more likely for the person to be guided, to be blessed with the acceptance of the dua. وَالسَّحَرْ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ, and there's an everyday opportunity, which is a sahar, the last part of the night, before Fajr. And how can a person know that the last third of the night, as it's mentioned Sahih Muslim, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ينزل إلى السماء الدنيا, descends into this dunya, to this worldly heaven, in a way that fits Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing is the like of him, but the hadith says like this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would say, هل من سائل فأعطيه هل من مستغفر فأغفر له. Is there anybody asking anything so that I can give him? Anyone that is asking for forgiveness so that I forgive him? And this is every day. You don't have to wait for Laylatul Qadr for the dua. This is an everyday thing, and it's before Fajr. And then how can we then be asleep at this precious time, right? And that's why the early generations of Islam, they would consider a person is out of his mind, is sleeping at this time, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling the people to make dua, and it's a sign of sincerity, because usually people are asleep at this. And it doesn't have to be a long time if a person has things to do during the day, just any time before Fajr, that a person would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the goodness of this life and the hereafter. ويقول ومن الأوقات الشريفة بين الأذان والإقامة, between the adhan and the iqamah. You would find that many times, this is what's kathiran means. The Muslim is not a seasonal thing, it's every day. So you go to the masjid, you pray 5 times a day, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us, but something that we need to do is that we go early to the salah. And this is one of the sunnah that will be taken away from the people early. Right? One of the first things that people would neglect is tabkir, or going early for the salah. So, and especially here, and again, a person, if he says this, he should be the first to apply it. So that's why may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us deficiency in this. But especially here in this country, you don't listen, you don't hear the adhan, right? And this is, we're deprived. So when a person goes to the masjid early, to make sure that he hears the adhan 5 times a day, this is enough virtue. To make sure that he hears the adhan and repeats after the muadhin, and to have the time between adhan and iqamah to make dua. It's a time where the dua is not rejected, as the Prophet ﷺ said. وَعُقَيْبَ الصَّلَوَاتِ, after the salawat, and meaning here, which fits with the way of the Prophet ﷺ, at the end of the salah before salam. Before you make salam, after you finish the tashahhud, this is a good time for dua. And also the adhkar that you say after the salah, اللهم أعني على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك, and so on. وعند نزول الغيث, when it rains, this is a good time for dua, as the Prophet ﷺ said. وعند القتال في سبيل الله, and while fighting for the sake of Allah. وعند ختم القرآن, when a person finishes the Quran. Although there is no clear evidence from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that the dua after finishing the recitation of the Quran is accepted, but there is the action of Anas radiallahu anhu, he used to do that, and this is authentic. Anas radiallahu anhu, whenever he would finish the Quran, he would gather his family and he would make dua. And since it's a good deed, so at the end of any good deed you would find that the dua is a good thing. But what people do in Ramadan, the dua of Khatm al-Quran and so on, there's no special dua for finishing the Quran. There is the dua of al-witr in Ramadan, and other than Ramadan, this is what the Muslims say. But there's no special dua for finishing the Quran. Or fi sujood, every time a person makes sujood, where the Prophet ﷺ said, أَقْرَبُ مَا يَكُونُ الْعَبْدُ مِنْ رَبِّهِ وَهُوَ سَاجِدٌ, the closest position that a person is in to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he is in sujood. And then the Prophet ﷺ ordered us to make a lot of dua in the sujood. وَعِنْدَ الْإِفْطَارِ, and while breaking your fast. When the person fasts and before he breaks his fast, the dua is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَعِنْدَ حُضُورِ الْقَلْبِ وَجَلِهِ, and one general time that at all times can happen is when the heart is present, and when the heart has the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we talked about this presence of the heart. So that means when a person feels like making dua, don't say, I'll wait. Do it at any time. If you feel your heart is there, present to make dua and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a person should not wait for anything. He should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether a person is walking or driving, it doesn't have that to be like you stop the car and you face the qibla and you raise your hand and you make dua. You just say it. Say whatever the need is, comes from the heart, and the person would say it with his tongue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. Of course, the most perfect etiquette is when the person faces the qibla and raises his hand and humble himself and start with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then making salah on the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking Allah for forgiveness and using the names and attributes of Allah, and then ending the dua with the salah on the Prophet alayhi wasallam. But also at any time, a person feels like making dua or ask anything, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. And he says, وَعَلَى الْحَقِيقَةِ فَإِنَّ شَرَفَ الْأَوْقَاتِ يَرْجِعُ إِلَى شَرَفِ الْحَالَةِ. He's saying in reality, the most honored times or best times for dua is according to how the situation that a person is in is also honored. فإن وقت السحر وقت صفاء القلب وفراغه وحالة السجود حالة الذل. The sahar, the last part of the night, this is the time where the heart is pure, is not contaminated with the sins of the day yet, with what a person sees and diverted his heart with all the things that a person sees. Usually, the moment that a person wakes up from his sleep, he's still fresh. So the dua then is because of the state of the heart. And also when the person is in sujood, this is a state of humbleness and humility, that the person, the more he humble himself, the more his dua is to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The more he sees himself that he has no power and no might and nothing whatsoever. This is where the dua is to be even more likely to be accepted. And we don't have to wait till it physically happens, where the person is muttar and is in need. A person can be at times of ease, and he has, alhamdulillah, money and everything, but he's still, his dua, from his heart, he is in that level of necessity, that he is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he humble himself as if, which is true, that without the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if this dua is not accepted, he is ruined. He is ruined, and that's why his dua will be very sincere. So the dhul, and iftiqar, to be in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is one of the essential things when a person would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why these types of or places or times of the dua be accepted is when people are in dire need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. نقول ومن آداب الدعاء أن يدعو مستقبل القبلة ويرفع يديه ثم يمسح بهما وجهه. Which means he's saying from the adab of the dua is to make dua facing the qibla and to raise your hand. He says here to wipe your face with it. But wiping the face, there is no authentic hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. What is mentioned is a weak hadith. So in the weak hadith, بالاتفاق, agreed upon that you don't act according to it. Right? So that means we should not wipe our face after the dua. So raising the hand, yes, under the face and facing the qibla, this is the most perfect way of making dua. وأن يخفض صوته حال الدعاء, and to lower one's voice, not to scream or raise the voice. وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعاني. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can hear the dua of the person, so he should be in a humble state. It says ومن آدابه أن يبدأ بذكر الله عز وجل. From the etiquettes of dua, that a person starts with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يا ذا الجلال والإكرام, يا حي يا قيوم, and the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the beginning of Surah Al-Fatiha, whatever it means. ثم يصلي على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, then making salah on the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. ولا يتكلف السجع في الدعاء, and he does not make takalluf, does not go out of his way to make the dua, have this saj'a or the rhyme in it, right? You make sure that it's with a rhyme, no, just whatever the person. And although the dua of the Prophet ﷺ, many of it has this in it, but it's not mutakallaf, it's not out of one's way, that some people they do. And there are many, of course, of these etiquettes, as the Prophet ﷺ, he forbade us from transgressing in the dua. Transgressing, asking Allah for a sin, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way that it's not permissible. For example, a person asking to be a prophet, for example, there's no prophet after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. as Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, when he entered on his son, and he was asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua, oh Allah, give me the green house in Jannah, like details like this. He said, oh my son, the Prophet ﷺ forbade us from transgressing in the dua. Ask Allah to enter Jannah. And if you enter Jannah, you get everything in Jannah. You don't need to say all these different specific things. And this is the way of the Prophet ﷺ. His dua comprehensive, and the person would leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also it's important, either the person is asking for matters of the hereafter, or he's asking matters of this dunya. Hereafter, we know exactly what is good in the hereafter. Right? So the person asks Allah for Jannah, asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect him from the hellfire, and so on. But matters of dunya, we don't know what is good for us. Right? So we should have a condition there. Right? So a person should not ask, oh Allah, give me this car, or that house, or this wife, or that person, or whatever. Right? Because you don't know, it might be a source of misery. So you put a condition in it. And that's why Salatul Istikhara is there. Or you leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنًا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنًا وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And as Anas radiallahu anhu, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيا حَسَنًا means the big house and the nice car and everything. He did not say the car, he said the dab, right? The transportation. It all included. So you don't have to really remember every single thing good of this life that you want. Just say it in general. اللهم إني أسألك من الخير كله عاجله وآجله ما علمت منه وما لم أعلم. This is from the dua of the Prophet ﷺ. Oh Allah, I ask you from all means of goodness, the immediate of it and the late of it, what I know and what I do not know. Right? وأعوذ بك من الشر كله عاجله وآجله ما علمت منه وما لم أعلم. And I seek refuge in Allah from you, and I seek refuge in you, O Allah, from the evil. It's immediate and it's late and it's what I know and what I do not know. Such a comprehensive dua, and this is always the dua of the Prophet ﷺ. There's nothing wrong with asking specific, like asking for, if it's matters of deen, ask specific. Oh Allah, give me knowledge. Oh Allah, of course, Salatul Istikhara with matters that a person would do is for everything that a person do. The asking for, means of goodness and matters of the deen, this can be specific, but in general matters of dunya. And the more the heart is attached, knowing the purpose of life, the more the dua will be correct, right? So that the person knows what is benefiting for his own self. And this comes with knowledge, of course. People asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for things that would be, again, the source of regret for them. Asking Allah for a position in this life. And this position becomes the reason for them to enter the hellfire. They should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get from His bounty subhanahu wa ta'ala. ومن آدابه وهو الأدب الباطن وهو الأصل في الإجابة التوبة ورد النظر. From the etiquettes of the dua, and this is adab batin, meaning that it's an inward etiquette that comes in the heart, which is the foundation of any acceptance of the dua, is the tawbah, to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely, and to give back the mazalim and the things that a person took from others, or the rights of others. Because this can be one of the things that deprives the person from the acceptance of the dua. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ said, رُبَّ أَشْعَثْ أَغْبَرْ يَمُدُّ يَدَيْهِ إلى السماء يقول يا رب يا رب ولكن مطعمه من حرام ومشربه من حرام وغذي بالحرام فأنى يستجاب له. That the meaning of which, that a man might be uncalmed here, he's traveling, it was said like traveling for ibadah, like hajj and so on, and he is extending his hand to the skies, raising his hand, saying Ya Rabb, Allah, my Rabb, my Rabb. But then the Prophet ﷺ said, but his food is from haram, his drink is from haram, and his nutrition is from haram. فَأَنَّ يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ, as far is that he would be accepted for his dua. So there's means for the dua to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then more etiquettes, but this is as a brief thing. Then he says, فَصْلِ فِي الْأَوْرَادِ وَفَضْلِهَا وَتَوْزِيعِ الْعِبَادَاتِ عَلَى مَقَادِيرِ الْأَوْقَاتِ. To have the awrad, that this is to have a wird, to have something that is done daily, and the virtues of it, and to distribute the ibadat on different times. This is such an important thing. This is, as again, the deen is to be established like this. The more you do it, the more you will enjoy it. Not in other things, the more you do it, the more you get bored of it. Those who are bored of the ibadah, those who do less of it. Those who do more of it, they will enjoy it even more. But more according to the way of the Prophet ﷺ. If they do more than the way of the Prophet ﷺ, yes, they will be bored of it. So it's the way of the Prophet ﷺ that makes the person enjoy the ibadah. So he said, اعلم أنه إذا حصلت المعرفة بالله سبحانه والتصديق بوعده والعلم بقصر العمر وجب ترك التقصير في هذا العمر القصير والنفس متى وقفت على فن واحد حصل لها ملل. Which means know that if you get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the right way with His names and attributes subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to believe in the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to have the knowledge that how is this life is very short, right? And how short it is, then it's mandatory then not to be deficient in our actions. In this short period of time, there is no regretful benefit. It's very short. And he said, and the human being, his nafs is in such a way that once it do only one thing over and over again, it gets bored. فَمِنَ التَّلَطُّفِ نَقْلُهَا مِنْ فَنٍ إِلَى فَنٍ. From taking care of your nafs, and something delicate to do is that you make it do things different, so that it doesn't get bored. So also in matters of ibadah, قد قال الله تعالى واذكر اسم ربك بكرة وأصيلا ومن الليل فاسجد له وسبحه ليلا طويلا. As it's mentioned in Surah Al-Insan, remember the name of your Lord in the morning and in the evening, and at night make sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and tasbih a long night. So يقول فهذا ونحوه مما ذكر من الآيات في ذلك يدل على أن الطريق إلى الله تعالى مراقبة الأوقات وعمارتها بالأوراد على الدوام. That the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to be watchful of the times and to fill it with the awrad, with the things that is repeated, the things that you would do and say, على الدوام, continuously. Right? And this is the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Like the different adhkar every day, as we said before, the recitation of the Quran, even charity, even good deeds, even visiting sick people and so on. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَ اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ خِلْفَةً لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَن يَذَّكَّرَ أَوْ أَرَادَ شُكُورًا. That خِلْفَةً يَخْلُفُ أَحَدُهُمَ الْآخَرَ لِيُتَدَارَكْ فِي أَحَدِهِمَا مَا فَاتَ فِي الْآخَرِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the day and the night خِلْفَةً, meaning the day comes after the night and the night comes after the day, like this, so that a person, whoever wants to make remembrance of Allah and take the benefit of this and to be grateful to Allah. That means you can really, as long as the person is alive, fix the day by what you do at night and fix what's in the night by the day. And yes, the person should do that, and at the same time, it's a rewardable thing or the opposite. A person commits sin and disobeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the day, he's deprived from the night prayer. He sleeps all night, he's deprived from good things during the day. You would find this relationship between the day and the night, and also it's time to fix. If a person overslept, then he would pray what he used to pray as the Prophet ﷺ used to do, and you add a rak'ah to it. And asking during the day to be guided during the night, to be helped in matters of ibadah. So this is basically the awrad. Then he talked about the different awrad, or what to do every day, that we should make sure that we do it and be patient doing it. He says, أَوْرَادُ النَّهَارِ سَبْعَ. There are 7 things to be done during the day, وَأَوْرَادُ اللَّيْلِ سِتَّ, and 6 things to be done during the night. He says, فَلْنَذْكُرْ فَضِيلَةً كُلَّ وِرْدٍ وَوَظِيفَتَهُ وَمَا يَتَعَلَّقُ بِهِ. Then he will mention each one of them. الورد الأول من أوراد النهار ما بين طلوع الفجر الثاني إلى طلوع الشمس وهو وقت شريف. The time from the Fajr, the time the true Fajr comes out, till sunrise. Once the time of Fajr starts, till sunrise. And this is a very blessed and a good time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by this time, saying, وَالصُّبْحِ إِذَا تَنَفَّسْ, by the morning when it comes out or when it breathes. So he says, فَيَنْبَغِي إِذَا انْتَبَهَ الْعَبْدُ مِنَ النَّوْمِ أَنْ يَذْكُرَ اللَّهَ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى. Whenever he wakes up from sleep, he should make remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فيقول, then to say, الحمد لله الذي أحيانا بعد ما أماتنا وإليه النشور. alhamdulillah, the one that gave us life after death, and to him we shall be resurrected. It was said that some of the Mashaykh, Shaykh Ibn Rahimahullah, for example, when he used to wake up his children for Salah, he would tell them the dhikr while waking them up, right, so that they would remember it, right? Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'da ma amatana wa ilayhi nushur. He says روي ذلك عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من أفراد البخاري وفي أفراد مسلم من حديث ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم كان إذا أمسى, when the night time comes, he would say أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير ربي أسألك خير ما في هذه الليلة وخير ما بعدها وأعوذ بك من شر ما في هذه الليلة وشر ما بعدها ربي أعوذ بك من الكسل وسوء الكبر ربي أعوذ بك من عذاب في النار وعذاب في القبر. And this is to be said in the morning and in the evening, right? Asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the night comes, the morning comes, it's all by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, praising Allah, and there's no one worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To him is the kingdom of the heavens and the earth and all the praise, and he's able to do all things. Oh Allah, I ask you for the best of what's in this night and the best of what comes after it. And I seek refuge in you from the evil of this night and the evil of what comes after it. And then he would say, Rabbi a'udhu bika, oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from al-kasal, from laziness, and the evilness of being in old age when the person is weak and so on. And oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from the punishment in the fire and the punishment in the grave. See, very precise words, that if this dua is accepted, that's it. This is the ultimate joy of this life and hereafter. And this is one of many dua that is to be said in the morning and the evening. And again, this is something that never ever should be missed. If a person forgets it, then he should still say it once he remembers it. And he mentioned some of that. أصبحنا وأصبح الملك لله. In the morning he would say it. And بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء والسميع العليم 3 times. ورضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا ومحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. This can be said after the adhan of al-Fajr, doesn't have to be after Salatul Fajr. So once the Fajr time starts, you can start saying these adhkar, especially if the Iqamah is late. Or you can say it after Salatul Fajr. So either way, as long as the Fajr starts. And then he says, فَإِذَا صَلَّى الْفَجْرَ قَالَ هُوَ ثَانٍ رِجْلَهُ. After he finished Salatul Fajr, he should say before he move his legs. And some said that this is not authentic, whether it's about moving the leg or not, but it's basically right after he makes salam. After salam of al-Fajr, before he speaks, لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير 10 مرات 10 times. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت. This one has يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير. The 100 times in the morning and in the evening, this is without yuhyi wa yumit. This one, the 10 times after Fajr and after Maghrib, has yuhyi wa yumit in it. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير 10 times. And then he would say, it doesn't have to be in that order, but from the adhkar of the morning, سيد الاستغفار اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت خلقتني وأنا عبدك وأنا على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعت أعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء بذنبي فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. And this is as the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever said it in the morning and dies on that day, he will be among the people of Jannah. Whoever says it at night and he dies on that night, he will be from among the people of Jannah. And of course the dua, we explained it before, such a comprehensive one, the best way to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. And to say أصبحنا على فطرة الإسلام وكلمة الإخلاص ودين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا مسلما وما كان من المشركين. These adhkar that you will find it in the book Muslim Citadel or the like of this. And to make dua, اللهم أصلح لي ديني الذي هو عصمة أمري وأصلح لي دنياي التي فيها معاشي وأصلح لي آخرتي التي فيها معادي واجعل الحياة زيادة لي في كل خير واجعل الموت راحة لي من كل شر. Which, as from the dua of the Prophet ﷺ, O Allah, أصلح لي ديني, make my deen the best and to be perfected. That is عصمة أمري. This is the most important thing of my affair. There's nothing more important in the deen. And you see the dua, a person can say it, but he doesn't really mean it. He's not truthful in it. When a person, the deen is not the most important thing in his life. And he says, Allahumma aslih li deen alladhi wa ismatu amri. Allah, fix my deen, that is the most important thing in my life. The person has to be honest in what he's saying. وَأَصْلِحْ لِي دُنْيَايَ الَّتِي فِيهَا مَعَاشِ. And make my dunya the best, this world for me, that I have my life in it. Right? General term like this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it the best. وَأَصْلِحْ لِي آخِرَتِي. And fix my hereafter, which I will be resurrected in it. And make this hayat, this life, زِيَادَةً لِي فِي كُلِّ خَيْرٍ. Make this life an increase always for matters of goodness, and make the death for me راحة من كل شر, to be secure away from all evil. Because it's not about living only, but living with means of goodness. If a person asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to live till he's very old, but then the more he lives, the more he commits sins, and the more he is away from the orders of Allah, his life becomes a curse on him, not a good thing. So it's all about how to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to be steadfast on the truth. And the dua of Abu Darda radiallahu anhu, Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa ant, alayka tawakkalt, wa anta rabbul arsh al-azim, ma sha Allah kan, wa ma lam yasha lam yakun, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. أعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير وأن الله قد أحاط بكل شيء علما اللهم إني أعوذ بك من شر نفسي ومن شر كل دابة أنت آخذ بناصيتها إن ربي على صراط مستقيم, which is some of the adhkar mentioned in the morning and the evening again. So he's saying this ad'iyah, a person should not لا يستغني عنها الإنسان. This is not something to be, that you be able to live without it. Like, how can really people live without these ad'iyah in the morning and in the evening? And he says, وَيَنْبَغِي لَهُ قَبْلَ خُرُوجِهِ إِلَى صَلَاةِ الْفَجْرِ. He should, before he goes out to Salatul Fajr, and يُصَلِّ السُنَّةَ فِي مَنْزِلِهِ, that he would pray sunnah in his house. ثُمَّ يَخْرُجْ مُتَوَجِّهًا إِلَى الْمَسْجِدِ. Then he would go to the masjid, saying, اللهم إني أسألك بحق السائلين علي. And although this has, some said that this hadith is, or this dhikr is weak, وبحق ممشاي هذا فإني لم أخرج أشرا ولا بطرا ولا رياء ولا سمعة خرجت ابتغاء سخطك وابتغاء مرضاتك أسألك أن تنقذني من النار إنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. This specific dhikr is weak, but there is to go out of the house by saying بسم الله توكلت على الله ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله اللهم إني أعوذ بك أن أضل أو أضل أو أزل أو أزل أو أظلم أو أظلم أو أجهل أو يجهل علي. And then to say the dhikr of going to the masjid, اللهم اجعل في قلبي نورا وفي لساني نورا واجعل في سمعي نورا وفي بصري نورا. And again you can read that from the book of Adhkar. فإذا دخل المسجد, if he enters the masjid, فليقل ما روى مسلم في صحيحه. Then he should say what Muslim said in his Sahih, and the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إذا دخل أحدكم المسجد فليسلم على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He should say salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, اللهم صل على محمد. Then he should say, اللهم افتح لي أبواب رحمتك, والله open for me the gates of your mercy. وإذا خرج فليقل, and when he goes out, when he steps out, اللهم إني أسألك من فضلك, والله I ask you from your bounty. ثم يطلب الصف الأول, and he should seek the first line, the first row, منتظرا للجماعة, waiting for the جماعة, داعيا بنحو ما تقدم من الأذكار والأدعية, making dua, making dhikr of what has been mentioned before. So going early, making sure that he reached Takbiratul Ihram, the first takbir, being in the first line, going early for the salah. This is one of the virtues, these, as we said, that will be neglected, or one of the first things to be neglected from among the ones. It's a common thing here so much, in this country in general. Why? Because people were tied to the time of al-Iqamah. And that's a sad part of it. Right? We're coming to the Iqamah, we're not coming to the Adhan. Right? If the time that we have is to the Adhan, right, it will make a big difference. Right? So, and waiting, الانتظار, عبودية الانتظار, هذه من أنواع العبودية لله عز وجل. There's عبودية to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to wait. This is a good thing. Again, we mentioned that before, but people, once the clock ticks into the what's mentioned, right, you will find the person irritated, right, and people stand calm, right. There is an act of worship called waiting. It's a good thing that we come to the masjid and we wait for the salah. and waiting, of course, without undermining the schedules of people and things like that. I'm not saying that, but a person coming early and waiting for the salah, and this is by itself is an act of worship, as the Prophet ﷺ said, that the angels will keep on making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for such a person. Allahumma aghfir lah, Allahumma arhamah, Allahumma tub alayh, Allah forgive him, Allah have mercy on him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make him repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is when a person is sitting waiting for the iqamah, not irritated. And again, the life that we live in, and it's so busy and everything, but especially for the salawat that the person doesn't have things to be done, it's a good thing to wait for the salah. So this is something to be done all the time, that a person can try himself to do that. فإذا صلى الفجر استحب أن يمكث في مكان إلى طلوع الشمس. If he prays Fajr, then it's recommended to stay in his place till the sunrise. In his place meaning the place that he prayed, not necessarily the same spot. Right? The masjid that he prayed in, to stay there till the sunrise. The Prophet ﷺ used to do that, as it's mentioned in Sahih Muslim, but the Prophet ﷺ used to stay after Fajr حتى ترتفع الشمس, till the sun rises. And the hadith of Anas radiallahu anhu, and this hadith is sound. من صلى الفجر في جماعة, whoever prays Fajr in Jama'ah, then ثم قعد يذكر الله تعالى, then he said to make remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala حتى تطلع الشمس, till the sun rises. ثم صلى ركعتين, and he prays 2 rak'ah, كانت له كأجر حجة وعمرة تامة, that he will be given the reward of Hajj and Umrah complete. Such a great reward with simple deed that a person can do. So this is our schedule of the day, right? And he says وَلْتَكُنْ وَظَائِفُ وَقْتِي أَرْبَعَ. The wazifa, or the job that he should do then while waiting for the sunrise, الدعاء, الذكر, القراءة, and he says al-fikr, right? To make dua, to make dhikr, to ponder, to reflect over things, what you're saying. That the matter is this day that is coming, that the person starts it after Fajr. Allah knows best what's in it, right? Is it going to be getting the person closer to Jannah or closer to the Hellfire? As the Prophet ﷺ said, كل الناس يغدو فبائع النفس فمعتقها أو موبقها. All the people, they go out in the morning, right? فبائع النفس فمعتقها. All of them, they sell themselves. They sell their time, their effort. This is their commodity. In return of what? Either to save himself or to ruin himself. People do that in return of money. But if it's done in haram, right, they ruin themselves. If it's done in the halal way, then it's a good thing. So this is a time when the person is sitting after Fajr. What is waiting for me in this day? Is it going to be a means for my forgiveness and elevation? People in Jannah, they would talk to each other and they would remember that day that this and this happened. This was the day that Allah forgave our sins, right? The unseen is not lifted, we cannot see it. So that's why the person every day is a new important part of our life. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most wise. He gave us life for a reason. So there's a wisdom behind it. It's not that it's for no reason. But why we're still alive? This is a great ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the person to witness that he needs to do things. So this is the type of reflection that the person should think about. And وَلْيَأْتِ بِمَا أَمْكَنَ, and to do the best he can. And وَلْيَتَفَكَّرْ فِي قَطْعِ الْقَوَاطِعِ وشغل الشواغل عن الخير ليؤدي وظائف يومه ويتفكر في نعم الله تعالى ليوفى شكره. He should think also and reflect what are the things that would deprive me from the fulfilling of the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and so on, so that he would think and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he make it easy for him to have his day in the best way according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. This is only first part of the day. So it's seven things to be done. So this is the first wird. But there's no time. Just take the second one. We have still 8 minutes. الورد الثاني ما بين طلوع الشمس إلى الضحى, after the sunrise till the duha time, وذلك بمضي 3 ساعات من النهار. This is after 3 hours of the day passes. We'll get to understand what that means. إذا فرض النهار 12 ساعة وهو الربع وهذا وقت شريف وفيه وظيفتان. The hours, Islamically, is there 12 hours of the day and 12 hours in the night. It's not like the 60 minutes and 60 seconds. This is deficient, by the way, because it has nothing to do with the day and the night and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, right? How He created the heavens and the earth. Summertime is different than the winter time. People work at 8 o'clock, winter and summertime. When 8 o'clock in the winter time, just right after sunrise, summertime, it's like close to Dhuhr time. Feels like that way. The sun been out for a long time. And people are sleeping during the sun when it's risen, when Allah wants you to wake up at this time. So that's why you see this disturbance between the day and the summer and the winter. Islamically, right, if we have the Islamic watch, and it does not exist now electronically, it's 12 hours, and it's a good thing if a person would make it as a program, right? You can do it and you can use it as a help. It's 12 hours of the day, 12 hours in the night. So 12 o'clock, Fajr time. It changes every day. So it's programmed that right at Fajr time, this is 12:00, right? Between Fajr and Dhuhr, it's 6 hours. 6 hours, right? So it would vary, right? So for example, if your work is at 1 o'clock, your work starts from the school. Let's say the school system, okay? The school starts at 1 and ends at 6, right? If it's winter time, it's very short, right? If it's summertime, it's long, so it will compensate, pay off. Same thing if people work this way. Your work is from 1 to 7. 8 hours, okay, 8 hours. 8 hours in winter time will be very short, right? That means in winter time, if it's 8 hours, you probably, actually it's going to be long. But in the summertime, you'll finish by Dhuhr. And winter time, you'll finish later. You see what I'm saying? But it's all by how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created things. So in the summertime, you'll have time to make qaylula, because the day is long. Your qaylula won't be in the morning after Fajr. No, it will be after Dhuhr. So if it's divided this way, and every day changes. So you set your clock, for example, at 11, which is before Fajr, right? This 11 will be different every day, right? It's not the same 11 as this rigid of this clock. You understand what I'm trying to say? So he's saying there are 12 hours in the day. 1/4 of this is the best time of duha prayer, after 3 hours of the beginning of the day. When the Prophet ﷺ said the virtues of it, حين ترمض الفصال, when the camels cannot sit on the ground because it's hot. Right? So this is a very virtuous time for Salatul Duha. Already you prayed the 2 rak'ah after sunrise, and it's also duha, but it's also to have Salatul Duha also at this time. And then he says, in this time you have Salatul Duha, and ما يتعلق بالناس من عيادة مريض أو تشييع جنازة أو حضور مجلس علم أو قضاء حاجة مسلم وإن لم يفعل شيئا من ذلك تشاغل بالقراءة والذكر. This time, whatever, but then this is different from one place to the other. If you're working, you're working. If you're visiting a sick, going to a janaza, studying in a majlis ilm, helping a Muslim, and if there's nothing, then be busy with the qira'ah and the dhikr. So this is after 3 hours, which is the time of duha. Then the third wird is from waqt al-duha al-zawal, from the duha time to zawal time, which is the dhuhr time. And see, it's amazing how the early generations of Islam, he didn't work yet, right? He started his day with the dhikr and so on. He go visit the sick and take care of the Muslims, anybody need anything. He's not working yet. It's the third one, from duha till dhuhr, al-ishtighalu bil-kasbi wal-ma'ash. To go work, and you go to the market, وحضور السوق. فإن كان تاجرا فليتجر. If he's a tajir, if he's a merchant, he should go and with صدق and amana, with truthfulness and so on. وإن كان صاحب صنعة, if he do something, manufacture something or so on, فليصنع بنصيحة وشفقة. He should do his work. ولا ينسى ذكر الله تعالى في جميع أشغاله. He should never forget the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وليقنع بالقليل. He should be satisfied with what is less. Right? So this is the time of the work, right? And then after that, because it's not the time of work and they're lazy the rest of the day, right? This is not as people might think. You know, they're busy with other things, which is also, it's even more beneficial. You don't have the upper hand. You are being dictated how you would work. So when people, this is the thing that drives them and make them happy and sad and everything is money. And this is another subject, right? Companies and things like that or whatever, they want to make the most. There's so much money on earth, so much wealth that is not needed, right? And that's why people work too much, right? 8 hours, 9 hours, 12 hours, for what? What is left of the day and the night to give the rights of one's family and oneself, and become, the person become enslaved to just the money. And this is what they want people to do, nothing else they do in their life. Their concern, their worship, their everything is about money, and that's it. You come back from work, exhausted, you can't do anything, you just sleep for the next day to work and so on. There's more in life than just to be like that. I'm not trying to make people feel bad, but again, to see the beauty of the deen. That the Muslim, the rights of the workers in Islam, that you have rights in your life, you have to go visit your relatives, you have to raise your children, right? So they deceive people by all kinds of motivations and benefits and all kinds of things that people get excited, but at the end they're basically like slaves at these times, all times. Where is the rights of the person to have quality time to do quality things? But anyway, so inshallah we'll stop at this time and then we can continue next time. With these awrad, sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.